Hey friends, it's Awkwardly Random with Cinthia and Michelle, where we talk about random topics.
Anything and everything awkward is on the table, so let's dive right in.
Hey everybody, it's Cinthia.
And it's Michelle. Welcome back to another episode of Awkwardly Random. Woo! We're back.
We are back after a little while.
How have you been, Beans? How was your weekend? What did you do during this time off?
I was in North Carolina for a wedding, my friend's wedding. Shout out to Kim.
Shout out.
Was my friend who I met in Australia 8 years ago. So
wow.
I can't believe that was 8 years ago. And you were in Italy at that time. That was 8 years ago, Michelle.
Oh my God, it's been 8 years.
It's been 8 freaking years since we went on our trips abroad during college. And that was the time that I met Kim, my dear friend, who I am so honored that she invited me because I haven't seen her in a long time. I think like 5 years since I've seen her. And I went to visit her in New Jersey. And yeah, it was so good to see her and hang out and be in North Carolina. That was my first time there. So down in the South.
Nice. How was it? How was the wedding though overall?
Oh, it was good. It was good. It was a beautiful wedding. My allergies kicked in, and by that I mean that I teared up a little bit. But it was really beautiful. It was fun, and I got to meet some of her friends, and I met her family, and that's Jasmine really nice. Came with me, so we drove it 15 hours from Chicago to Wilmington, North Carolina.
Ooh, and nice road trip.
Yeah, it actually wasn't bad. Like I did 5 hours while she slept, and then she did 5 hours, and then by that time we kind of split the last few hours together, and it was fine. It was easier than I thought.
That's really good.
So yeah, it was good. It was good.
Congrats to Kim and her spouse.
Yes, congrats. We're so happy for you. How was your weekend? How are you doing? How is everything? Life
is going all right. Still in New York, still working, trying to enjoy my summer. And I mean, just I have like a bucket list of things that I want to do in New York this summer. So just we went to a whole bunch of thrift stores in Brooklyn, which was really cool. I got a lot of t-shirts. And then so yeah, just enjoying life and trying to do as much as I can while I'm here.
And I bet there's a lot of stuff to do in New York in the summer. I'm sure there's events and stuff like that.
Yeah, so many things. It's really nice.
And Pride is this month as well. I'm sure there's a lot of things going on in New York for that. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Same here, same in Chicago. There's the Pride Fest, and then there's a festival, there's a parade, there's a bunch of stuff going on for Pride. So I'm definitely trying to go to those events as well.
Nice.
All right, so let's get to the awkwardly random question. Mish, go ahead and ask it since this was your question that you came up with. It's a great question, by the way.
Okay, so random question of the episode. If you ever get married, would you ever take your spouse's last name?
Yeah.
Why or why not? Okay, yeah, why?
Well, I like Jasmine's last name, so I would. However, I'd probably hyphenate maybe because I actually really like my last name as well. So yeah. It would just be long, but whatever.
Yeah. It sounds pretty good together.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. So if anything, I'd probably hyphenate. I just combine the two. And I think she would as well. We talked about this, about what we would do. And she would like to take mine as well. So I think,
good decision making. Question. What if you have children, what would their last name be? Still hyphenated, both?
I guess. I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't gotten that far, but
okay.
That could be something I would be open to that. I'd be open to that.
Yeah.
Giving them both last names.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. What about you?
What about me? I don't know.
Okay, that's valid.
I don't know. I don't know. I honestly, I don't have a huge attachment to my last name. My last name is my father's last name, and you know if you've heard our podcast episodes before, like I'm not really close with my father, like didn't grow up with my father really. So I wouldn't mind changing my last name, but at the same time, like it's my last name.
Yeah.
And in my family specifically, the women in my family who all married, like my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, none of them ever took the last name of their spouse. So
Mm-hmm.
for us in our family, that wasn't really a thing. So that's why there isn't any pressure like that from my family at all.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess time will tell. But yeah, I'm open
Okay.
to anything pretty much. But I would want to keep my last name. Once I become a licensed attorney, I want to keep my last name as like my professional
Mm-hmm.
name, and then maybe change my name. If I do get married, change
Right.
it or hyphenate it. I don't know. I haven't decided yet, actually. But because I've seen that with other attorneys,
Mm-hmm.
where they keep their last name, like when they're practicing, and
Yeah.
then they use their other name outside of work and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. You got
I don't
options.
know. Yeah.
So I'm assuming, well, let me ask you, what about if you have kids, if you decide to have children? Is
I
that
haven't decided
something?
that.
Yeah.
I haven't decided that yet. If I have children, um, I would want them to have both last names.
Okay.
I think. I think I would want that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't have a huge attachment to my last name, so
Yeah.
I kind of don't care.
Yeah.
So, but I think I would want both of them. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I've spoken to Jesus too about it. And he also doesn't have a huge attachment to his last name because it's also his father's last name.
Mm-hmm.
And similar, I don't want to talk about his business, but also
Mm-hmm.
not close to his father either. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we're both pretty open with whatever last name we take.
Yeah, I think for my last name, I mean, I'm currently not close to my dad, but and I have his last name, but I think of it more so of it's the name that I grew up with,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I personally like how it sounds and it's not very
Mm-hmm.
common, so I think that's also why I like it and I have an attachment to it.
Mm-hmm.
But more so for those reasons than the fact that it's not that's my dad's name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't know. I'd be open. It's not a huge deal to me, quite
Mm-hmm.
honestly. I don't think it'll be the end of the world if I don't have it anymore and I just take Jasmine's instead. I don't, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really do much,
Yeah.
right? So, at least for me. So,
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. Like you said, time will
I get
tell.
it. Yeah, well, time will tell. I have no idea.
Yeah.
That was just like a random question that I thought of. But
So, stay
okay,
tuned, y'all. Stay tuned
stay
in
tuned
some
to see what
years.
happens.
Yeah.
So,
If you want to
yeah,
see
we'll
what
see.
happens,
See what happens.
give it a few years.
Yeah, watch I keep my last name or something. I don't know.
You never
What if
know.
I just create my own last name? Or like what I really always wanted to do actually was take my mother's last name. I've always
Yeah.
wanted, because I grew up with my mom's side of the family.
Uh-huh.
So all of them had Castillo and were
Right.
known as that. So
Right.
when you're little and people ask, "Oh, like why don't you and your mother have this?" Like I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you didn't. You had the same name
Yeah.
as your
Mm-hmm.
mom and your family, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when you're little and your parent goes to pick you up and they read out your parents' last name and they're like, "Oh, that's my mom." I remember kids saying like, "Oh, like your mom doesn't have your last name," and
Mm-hmm.
then I kind of had to like explain to them, "Oh, like
Right.
my mom, whatever she like." It was weird to explain as a child to other children, like, "Oh, when my parents married, my mother never took his last name, and also like my parents are separated now." Blah 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 blah. So
And
yeah,
it's weird that you had to explain that,
yeah,
I feel like it
hmm
shouldn't, like, why do you need to explain that to people?
yeah, yeah. But yeah,
But okay, okay, that's valid. Well, we'll find
we'll
out.
see. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll be on the lookout for whenever if that happens. I'll be like, Mish,
Yeah.
what's your official name now? I want to know.
Oh my gosh. Okay. My name will still be Michelle.
Okay, I mean your last name.
Okay.
All right,
Yay, that was it. Let's move on.
that's a good question.
I wonder what other people think. Comment down below what you think.
Mhm.
Do you think would you take your partner's last name? Why not? I know some people are very against it, and some people aren't. Some people don't care. So, yeah, let us know below.
Okay, let's get into. So we're gonna quickly wrap up the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard case. Since we did cover it in a previous episode, we thought we'd kind of follow up on that since the verdict did come through last week. But our main topic is going to be one that is it's on gun control and gun violence in the US. And it's a very contentious topic, but one that a lot of people are having right now. So we thought, let's contribute a little bit to that conversation.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up this case.
We're not really going to get too much into it, but just that, I'm sure everybody has heard this already, that the jury unanimously decided that Johnny, on all of his counts, I believe, won defamation against Amber Heard. And Amber Heard's counter lawsuit, there was like 3 statements made, and I think the jury only found one of them to be defamatory against Johnny. And they awarded I have it written down, 10 million in compensatory damages, and 5 million in punitive damages. But because of the Virginia state law cap, the punitive damages were lower to the cap amount, which is $350,000. And then the jury awarded Amber Heard 2 million and in compensatory, and I believe 0 in punitive. So for people who don't know the difference between compensatory damages and punitive damages, compensatory damages are basically intended to compensate, like kind of like the root of the word, compensate the person who was injured or suffered loss from the lawsuit. Punitive damages means that they're awarded to punish the wrongdoer. So you can kind of tell what the jury was thinking based off of like the amount of money they awarded to each party in this case.
Yeah. I don't really have much to add. I just know that so she was awarded 2 million, he was awarded 10 million plus 350,000. So does that mean Amber Heard technically owes Johnny Depp $8.35 million?
I mean, technically she would have to, but I was reading that something about her insurance would be able to pay something. I don't know. I'm not really sure about that, but technically the wrongdoer would be Amber Heard in this case. But in terms of how it's getting paid out and stuff like that, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. We're not going to get into it. I just had like questions in terms of like what this verdict means and the ripple effects it's going to have on our society and our culture, and what is this going to mean for victims who already don't speak out of fear that nobody's going to believe them, that the abuse is going to continue, that they're going to be shamed or ostracized. And then also like what I wonder, because this was such a high profile case and very like highly scrutinized, everybody was watching, and I wonder what this verdict would have looked like if this trial was not live streamed. What would that look like? But it seems like everybody was kind of on Johnny Depp's side, and Amber Heard was receiving a lot of hate on social media, and
I think she still is.
It continues to, and probably will continue to receive a lot of hate online. And I don't know. I had a lot of questions after that and certain feelings, but
yeah, I kind of stopped watching the trial after we had finished making that episode that we did last time, because
me too,
it just was getting weird. And like, and we talked about this on the episode, it's just I don't know about other people, but to me personally, and someone who works with victims or survivors of domestic violence and have for a while, like it is really just disgusting to see like the piling on that was against Amber Heard, regardless of whatever your thoughts are. Like this, at the end of the day, is a defamation trial that is based on DV. And it just goes to show you how a lot of people don't know about domestic violence and are so quick to say, oh, she's a liar or whatever, all these things that like, how do you know? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right.
oh, were you there? Like, this is just based off of the evidence and like their attorneys and all of this. And like what people think domestic violence isn't just physical violence. And I think that that's super detrimental and just eye-opening as to how our society views domestic violence. Like clearly people are not well aware of what all encompasses domestic violence. And I don't really want to touch on too much about it either, but it was just, I just didn't feel comfortable with the whole piling on against her and like very hard die pro Johnny, and just kind of dismissing everything that was presented. Like people are like, what evidence and all this other stuff. But if you look at it, there was evidence presented. I mean, maybe it didn't convince you, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't any. Yeah, and same with you, like how this is going to affect victims or survivors of domestic violence moving forward, especially when it comes to celebrities. Because as we have seen time and time again, celebrities, especially white men in Hollywood, are the men perpetrators of violence, sexual assault, and all of these things, and you don't really see them be held accountable.
Right.
So I don't think it sets a really good precedent. But I just kind of wish that now that this trial is over, people can who are still talking about it, because I'm on TikTok, right? I still see it and people are still talking about it, and it's been over for a week now. And it's just like, okay, when are you going to move on to talk about other victims of domestic violence, other victims of sexual assault at the hands of like celebrities and stuff like that? So yeah, that also, yeah, I don't know. It's tough because like I said, people, I don't know. I don't want to say too much, but at the same time, like some of the things that I was seeing on social media, it's like really disturbing. Like, oh, like there wasn't any evidence. And my mind is like, okay, but there was evidence. So then what precedent are you setting for other victims of domestic violence that don't have the same evidence, can't present any? Because when you're going through that situation, who thinks about like no, it's hard to think in that way. And also like different people react to domestic violence in a different way. There's no one way to act or react when you're in that situation. So I think people are very judgmental and quick to like make opinions. But yeah, I don't know, it's a lot and it's really sad to see. And I hope this doesn't stop people from speaking out against domestic violence, sexual assault, or any type of violence for that matter.
Yeah, I really hope not either. And people were treating it as like a soap opera and just like a show. Like it was just, so I felt uncomfortable even spectating it as well. And that's why I also stopped, because it was being sensationalized and everybody was talking about it. And like Johnny, what is it? Team Johnny and Justice for Johnny, and like who's gonna win, as if it's some sort of game show. It just was weird. Like you said, it was weird and uncomfortable. And this sends a message. This really does send a message, especially because everybody was watching. So I don't know. It was uncomfortable, and I just hope people are able to move on from that and just like, we need to focus on helping people who have survived or are victims of domestic violence, intimate partner violence. That was a big thing that was talked about during the trial. Sexual assault, all of that.
I would just say, moving on, be mindful of what you share. You don't know who is going through any type of violence in their lives. And I think people really see that. So just keep that in mind. Yeah.
All right.
Let's move on.
Well said, Mish. Let's move on to the main topic for today. Gun control, gun reform, gun violence, whatever you want to call it. It's a big issue. At least I think
really
it's a big
sad.
issue.
Yeah.
It's a very sad, tragic thing. I have a lot of feelings about it. And
tell us about it. How do you feel?
I feel sad. I feel like genuinely like deep sadness. Like I don't even know how else to describe it. Just pure sadness. And it's horrific, all the things that have been happening and these mass shootings. Yeah, I feel sad. Like, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
This happened, this mass shooting on
Which one?
in
I'm like, which one?
In Uvalde, Texas, the elementary school, happened on the morning of my birthday. This was May 24th of 2022. And I was like, I'm over here celebrating the fact that I am on my 29th round, 29th turn around the sun or whatever. And these children were like 10 years old, fourth graders, however, I don't know exactly how old they were.
Yeah, about 10, yeah.
Just like suddenly they will not have a 29th birthday, right? They will, like, that ends their time on this earth. Yeah. So that day was just very surreal. And I sat in my room just like trying to process everything, because I'm like, okay, I'm over here, I'm still living, I'm turning 29, and these kids were killed for no fucking reason. Just like senseless murder. I don't know. Anyway, I will let you chime in, Mish. I feel a lot of feelings.
No, I feel you. I understand. Those are valid feelings. I feel the same, but I've been feeling like that since the Buffalo, New York shooting, where I think like a white man like intentionally targeted a black grocery store, or like a grocery store where mostly in a black community. So
yeah,
since then, and there have been more shootings since then, including the Uvalde, Texas shooting.
And even after that, just recently, last week. Yeah.
And I think 2 days ago or something like that.
Yeah.
So definitely feeling a lot of sadness and it made me think of my nephew. My nephew is 10 years old and in fourth grade. So I just can't imagine having to lose a child, or like a young person, or in general, just losing someone. It's hard for someone. I know what that feels like, but to be lost in that way is completely different.
Right.
And I not understand that. So that really sad, but also like really angry at the same time. Like just really angry at our politicians, at our lack of leadership, not doing anything, not caring, putting profit and money over people's lives.
Yep.
Like I've had enough.
Enough is enough, right?
Yeah, like
this is what we keep saying, but
keep saying this, but like, what are we like? We keep saying it, but it's like, damn, when is it actually going to happen? Like,
I know
at this point, I just feel like I'm a robot repeating myself, and I'm like, what do I like at this point? I'm like, what do I need to do, like, to get this shit moving forward? Like, what do we need to do to get this shit moving forward? Because. And sometimes it feels like we can't, because when people are like, oh, you need to vote. And yes, we need to vote, obviously. But like when we vote, these people are still like not doing anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or not lobbying, not do what we think should be, or what I think is not enough.
Right.
So yeah. Beans, you need to run. You need to run for a position. I will vote for you.
Oh my God.
More people. I don't know. Like, I'm just like thinking, but whatever. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
I don't mean to laugh. I just think this is all so freaking ridiculous.
Yeah.
That this is happening. And yeah, I mean, we're all saying enough is enough. And when is this going to end? When is this going to end? We're all sad. We're all angry. We're all feeling all these feelings.
Yeah.
But nothing is being done.
Yeah.
Nothing is being done. Okay. Yeah. Canada implemented certain legislation in response to what is happening in the US. They are trying to avoid what is happening here. I believe Justin Trudeau, I think he's the prime minister, right? Prime Minister of Canada. They're pushing towards legislation that will ban handgun sales and purchases. And then also they're trying to buy back military style rifles. And that was in response to what is happening here. And yet we are here living this in real life, and nobody gives a damn. And the people that do give a damn, it's hard to get it. We live in a system where like we have two very opposing parties and they can't agree to anything. So we're like, it's almost like a standstill or like a gridlock. Like we're not figuring this out. We're not figuring it out.
But I do think the majority of people in the United States, I believe there's like a survey or something, I can't remember, but it's definitely more than 50. More than half of the population in the US believe that there should be gun regulation or
even gun owners
control, or and especially some gun owners think that like since believe that too. So I think people are agreeing to it. I just think that people who are in charge or like people who have power, politicians are not in favor of it. And that's because of, I think, the money that they get out of it.
Right. So, okay. Honest. The certain politicians that are not in favor of it, by it, at least what I'm referring to when we say it is gun regulation. Right. That is to provide better background checks, requiring license or having a federal database, a registry of guns in the country, stuff like that. Right. I'm hearing a lot of politicians, specifically on the right, propose certain quote unquote solutions for these mass shootings that does not include providing limitations on guns and limiting and gun legislation overall, right? So what are some people saying? Let's go. We have a little bit of a list of some things that people are saying of what should be done. And I think what we can do, Mish, and let me know if you're cool with it, we can just give our thoughts on it and whether we agree with it or not. So let's just go through what people are saying.
What are people saying?
Okay. One thing I'm hearing a lot of people, and it's a lot of people on the right, to be honest with you, they're saying we need more armed police officers and armed security in the schools. Do you agree or disagree?
I disagree.
I highly disagree.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mish. Tell us why.
Why? Well, I think we've seen that it doesn't work. We've seen that we've had armed security guards, I think, in different places that these shootings have taken place, and it turns out that like the security person wasn't there that day, or maybe they were there but like they weren't nowhere to be found, and there the excuses go on. But at the same time, I think if we think about it, especially think about having like armed security guards or police officers in predominantly Black and brown schools, and already how students in those schools are treated are not done fairly. And I can't imagine having more and more police in schools, which would increase the prison, like the school to prison pipeline that exists, that we have in the United States. So I am not in favor of that. I definitely think that we need to increase like just in general more funding in schools in terms of like maybe social services and maybe hiring more teachers, but not in putting security guards or like arming security guards or more police officers or anything like that. I don't agree with it. What about you?
Yeah, like you said, we've seen time and time again that this doesn't work. And just, recently in Uvalde, just to go back to what happened in Texas, they had a bunch of security armed officers or whatever already there, and they didn't do shit. And I think a lot of them were scared of going up against an AR-15 or whatever the freaking assault rifle this guy had, the gunman had. Like they don't. It makes me think of the good guy with gun logic that people are trying to like turn into this widespread narrative that you just need a good guy with a gun to beat the bad guy with a gun, and that is utter bullshit in my opinion. And even in the city or town of Uvalde, I think they do they have 40% of their budget goes to the police department. I think they even have a SWAT team. So
what did they do? Waited over 50 minutes to even get into the school.
I think it was 78 minutes to be
78.
exact.
Even worse. Even worse.
And then I believe the gunman was shot by a border patrol agent. So they didn't respond in the way that they needed to, and we just know that this doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It doesn't.
Okay, another thing that people are saying, this one is just fascinating to me. just so fascinating. There was an interview, and I watched this on TikTok, or where was it? I saw a video of Ted Cruz saying that the problem was that we had unlocked doors, and what we really need is one door for the building, and it needs to be locked and it needs to be guarded. And that's how we are going to be better prepared for when this happens. So again, I disagree.
Yeah. Why? Since I went first, you go ahead.
Yeah. First. A door is not going to do anything. When you have an assault weapon, a high capacity, like semi-automatic, you can knock down doors with anything, essentially, I think, right? You can, that doesn't do anything. It might slow you down, maybe, but that's not going to do shit. If a 20-something police officers couldn't stop this gunman, this one person, how is a door going to do that? Think about, like, if the gunman were to get in, right? Let's say he gets through the door. There's only one door. It makes it that much harder for the people in the school, in the building, to get out in another way, right?
Yeah.
And just for safety reasons, like fire alarms, things like that. Like, how are people going to get out of the building if there's only one door? It's like living in permanent lockdown, and then, like, you're just stuck there when things go bad. So I'm not really articulate with my thoughts, but that I just feel like this, it's super, I don't think it's helpful. I don't think it's helpful.
Yeah, I don't think it's helpful either. I agree that I disagree with this idea.
Nice.
Like, very clearly, like, safety for children in general. Like, say it wasn't a gunman, but like maybe like a fire or some sort of thing where people need to get out and there's only one door.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and the fact that it's a locked door. There are schools where there's locked doors, and it doesn't make sense. I think that's just another excuse for them to throw around and to be like, well, this is a solution, when it's not.
I agree. Next one. So we have here written more drills, but I also want to add to that. People are saying to arm the teachers. What are your thoughts on that?
It makes no freaking sense. They barely, you know how much teachers get paid?
Nothing.
Do you know how, like, the lack of funding that there is in schools, and you want to give the teachers guns? Like, right. It makes no sense. And also, it's not in their job description. Like, they didn't sign up, like, they're teachers. They didn't sign up to shoot people. Like, you know, this isn't what teachers signed up to do. And I think we're failing students and we're failing teachers by saying, here's a gun. Like, it's your job to protect these students. Right. And to put your life in front of, like, to put, you know, to basically sacrifice your life. So I don't think it's fair to put teachers in that position.
I think we ask a lot out of our teachers already. Yeah. We ask them to be parents. We ask them to be social workers. We ask them to be counselors. We ask them to be nurses. We now we want to ask them to be police officers. So to me, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I also think, like, legally, Michelle, like, what happens if a teacher accidentally shoots a child, or, you know, what I mean? Intentionally, right? Yeah. Right. You never freaking know. There's a lot. It's very complicated to introduce a gun, which is an object that is innately dangerous, innately lethal into any situation. I think is a bad idea. It's not gonna help anything.
It's a bad idea. Yep.
So we disagree on that one as well. Not together, but we disagree on this specific argument.
Yeah. Next.
All right, next, increasing the age for purchasing guns or specific kinds of guns.
It's a start.
Yes. I don't fully disagree. And in this country, we need to be 21 to be able to purchase alcohol. And so it's interesting that you can be 18 and purchase an assault rifle. Like, that doesn't make sense. So if we really cannot ban guns, I think the bare minimum, a step to the bare minimum, is to increase the age for when you can actually purchase them from like anywhere. I think this should be for licensed retailers, and then also gun shows or on the internet, any type of purchase. I think that age should be increased. To what age? I don't know, but I do think it should not be 18. All right, you go.
I agree. I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't know what age, but I definitely think that it should be increased.
Okay. All right. Next. All right. So this next one is gun regulation. And I think of background checks, requiring a license, having a database or a registry, banning certain guns. That's kind of what I think when I think of gun regulation. What do you think when you think of gun regulation?
Yeah, I think about the same thing, like age, but also like limiting what types of guns regular citizens have. Like, I don't know who fucking needs an assault rifle and AR-15. Like, what are you using that for? Okay.
That's one for the military. That's designed specifically for military use.
Yeah, I was looking at the power that some of these assault rifles have, and I'm like, what are you using that for?
Yeah.
Like, legitimately.
Yeah.
I want to know.
I was trying to think of like, is there a situation where that could
you hunting? Like,
come and not even for hunting though. You don't need that shit for hunting.
Sense? I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not. So yeah, I think about that. I think about also background checks, but also who's doing these background checks, training, who is doing these training, what type of training is it? Like, I also don't want to, there can be a lot of implicit bias and racism again, implementing these types of backgrounds, these type of trainings. And so that's one of my fears too, is that there will be implicit bias and racism in who is able to get these guns if this is put in place. So just be careful. Just want to be mindful of that. So yeah, that. But yeah, that's what I think about.
What if we did like universal background checks, like federal comprehensive background checks that look the same in every state, which I don't think is going to happen, but like, could that be one way to sort of mitigate a little bit some of that, what your concerns are in terms of bias and racism and giving people different types of background checks? Like, is there a way to kind of combat that through like a universal background check?
I don't know.
I'm just trying to think, like, what would that look like? We don't have the answers, y'all. Okay, we don't.
Because like, if we look at like criminal backgrounds and we look at like maybe a city and we see, okay, who is being stopped the most? We're going to see Black and brown people being stopped the most. Maybe having more like maybe traffic violations.
Right.
Like, will that make those people, like, this is just hypothetical, ineligible? Because if you look at the population and who's being stopped more and who's being charged more on traffic violations, or in general other crimes, like, that could possibly be a way for it affect people to have when they do these background checks. I don't know, like, that's just my like thinking in terms of like how like we could maybe see implicit bias or like racism within the system.
Yeah.
because we already see it in the criminal system, but like how would that be implemented with these background checks?
Right.
I don't know. It's just my thought. But I doubt like traffic violations would be like mixed into this. I don't know, I don't know. It's just that's what I'm thinking.
Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if they found some sort of way to add those types of more minor things to play a role in these checks.
So be mindful of that.
Yeah. I'm thinking about when we were talking about banning assault rifles specifically, right? And how we can't think of a single situation in which you would need one, because these are freaking semi-automatic assault rifles and they're designed for the military, and like why they should be in the hands of civilians. So I am for banning assault weapons or assault rifles, whatever you want to call them, or whatever they're supposed to be called. And then the other part of me is thinking like if someone deep in their heart needs to have or feels like they need to have a handgun in the house for protection, which there are statistics saying that doesn't actually really provide protection, but that's a different conversation, or it could be part of this conversation. It's
a real statistic, y'all.
Right. It's leads to more chances of suicide and things like that, but it doesn't actually provide protection necessarily. But anyway, so if people really feel like they need to have a handgun in the house, what I would say is like we need to have more comprehensive training on how to assemble it, disassemble it, or whatever, or like take out the ammunition. I don't freaking know the terms. I'm sorry. I don't own a gun. I don't know anything about guns. And then safe ways to store it, right? Safe storage training to make sure that, if you have kids in the house or other people in the home, they don't have access to it, right? Like we need to have more comprehensive training on that part of it if people really feel like they need to have handguns or some type of personal gun in the house. What are your thoughts on that? On like banning all guns or like specific guns? How do you feel, Mish? I'm just wondering what your opinion is.
How do I feel? I feel that if we ban completely all types of guns, people are still going to have guns. To be honest, it's just going to be less known who has one. So it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely agree that people shouldn't have assault rifles or like semi-automatic firearms. Like that just doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
But yeah, I think this is a really hard conversation, and you can like people who love their guns. I don't personally know anybody who owns a gun and who is like really, really tied to their guns, but I know that there are people are, especially like in Wisconsin, in the Midwest where we're from. So yeah.
And I think part of why this conversation is also really hard is because a lot of people who are gun lovers or people who are pushing for or against providing stricter gun laws are in this conversation, they're construing it as or perceiving it as you want to take all our guns away, and we're not about that, right? And so we're not going to get anywhere because they're not going to listen if they think you're just trying to take their guns away. So it's just a really hard conversation. I think there's a lot of factors coming into this. It's not that simple, and it's an ongoing thing that I don't know. I'm not so sure what is going to change and to what degree it's going to change.
I think those changes need to be made at the state level, and having people lobbying or like pushing these, especially like our state representatives. Like, so like for New York, like I believe like assault rifle weapons are not allowed. Like people can't own them. And I think that now I don't know if I was reading, right? They raise their age limit to owning a gun to 21. But different states are different.
And that's what I was gonna say, Mish, because in certain states with stricter gun laws, there are neighboring states with less strict gun laws. And so people are bringing in those guns to those states. And so, yes, I do think it should be at the state level, but it doesn't fix everything. It doesn't fix everything because you can just bring them in from another state. People are going to be doing that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, because there is no federal.
Right.
So what we have now is state level.
Yeah.
So if it, I would say if we do want to make that, or if there's changes need to be done, it should be done.
Yeah.
Nationwide.
I agree.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about mental health, which seems to be also a big talking point in this conversation. And there's a lot of people arguing that this is a mental health issue, not necessarily a gun issue. And what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's not fair to say or to blame just everything on mental health.
Yeah.
And it's not true also. Like, I think there's statistics and data out there saying that just because you have a mental health, something with a mental health issue doesn't mean that you're going to partake in a mass shooting. Like, there is no correlation between that. And I think people want to make that correlation because they want to create an idea as to why people are doing this, but there is no correlation between mental health illness and mass shootings. So I think it's not right that we're doing that, especially people who deal with mental health issues. We're creating more stigma against it, and it's not getting at the root of the cause. Whatever the root of the cause is.
Whatever it is, right? I think there's many root causes here.
Yeah.
But no, mental health does not cause gun violence or violence for that matter. If anything, if people really feel like they have to relate it to gun violence, it's usually suicide rates, higher suicide rates if you have a gun in the home and there's mental health issues also that people are experiencing. So no, it does not cause mass shootings. And the people that are also the people that are saying that this is a mental health issue are the very same people who are voting against any type of legislation or things that would provide support and funding to mental health services. So it just, I feel like the gun lovers and those that are pro-gun are the ones that are looking to blame this mass shooting and the thing that's happening in this country on anything and everything except for guns. So it just makes it that much harder to have a conversation and come to some sort of agreement as to what to do to address this. So so what now? I know we got to vote, but sometimes that's not enough.
That's not enough. We have to organize. We have to push. We have to advocate. We can't just keep talking about it. We have to actually do things. And I think that at least we've come to the point of just talking about it and our thoughts and prayers and posting on social media, so the people who are able to advocate and do stuff and mobilize, we should be doing that. And I know that if people truly care about this issue and other issues similar to this, people need to start acting. We really do. And I know that it may be an inconvenience for you. I know that maybe you don't have time, but I think it's time to make time for it now.
I think so too. We talked about our feelings a lot in the beginning of this and what we think should happen, which is all well and good. But I think you're right. We have to go beyond that.
Yeah. And I know like that there are so many issues in the world, or in our country specifically. I know there's a lot of issues. So like my advice would be is to pick at least one issue that you're really passionate about and that you can do something about. Like for me, it would be like immigration or like injustices in the law, or stuff like that. That's what I've decided to like commit myself in doing in my job, but also outside of my job. And I think everyone can at least pick one thing and work towards that.
It doesn't have to be part of your job.
It doesn't have to be part of your job. You can
Mhm.
do something outside of it. If you can make it part of your job, cool. If you can't, no, like volunteer your time. Or I just think that I think we need to put we need to walk the walk and not just talk the talk.
I have to do better about that too. I think we all can do better. And there's a lot of people that are on the ground doing the work. And so we gotta just join them.
Yeah. All right. That was it. Hope you enjoyed it. I know it's been tough. It's been a tough week.
Yeah.
Bad news after bad news. So try to take care of yourselves. Enjoy your life, but also let's
Help others where you can.
help others where you can. And that's it.
Thank you all for tuning in. Let us know your thoughts, and we will catch you at the next one.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.